Okay. So the actually the relationship between frequency and wavelength, as they say, they saying inversely proportional. Okay. No need to bug up all these formulas. Nothing. Actually, I'm 99%. I can guarantee you they will not ask this question in the exam in the Viva at all. But just for your safety, you must know. Even the definition of frequency of radio wave they won't ask you. They may sometime at exceptionally, yeah, I can say they may ask you the relationship between frequency and wavelength. So you can say frequency and wavelength are inversely proportional. And you increase the frequency, the wavelength decreases, and when the and vice versa. That means when you decrease the frequency, the wavelength will increase. If the frequency increase, the wavelength will decrease. Okay. Now, apart from this, most important thing which you must really know or remember is audio frequency band. What do you mean by audio? Just tick mark in your notes also. Audio frequency band. The human ear is capable of hearing a signal between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. This frequency band of 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz is called AF band. That is the audio frequency band. Whenever you see this word AF, AF is an abbreviation for audio frequency. Audio frequency. Whenever we talk about, we say audio frequency AF, and when we talk about radio frequency, we say RF, AF and RF. Okay. Now, all right. So in this, you must know audio frequency band. Any normal human ear is capable of hearing between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. After 20 kilohertz, because 1,000 hertz is 1 kilohertz. 1,000 hertz is 1 kilohertz. So that's why they said 20,000 hertz. 20,000 hertz is 20 kilohertz. 20,000 hertz is 20 kilohertz. See, hertz is the unit for measurement of frequency. The smallest unit, rather, the next bigger unit is kilohertz. Okay, and then next bigger unit is megahertz, and after that the next bigger unit is gigahertz, and so on. All right. So we can say 1,000 hertz is 1 kilohertz, and 1,000 kilohertz is 1 megahertz, and 1,000 megahertz is 1 gigahertz. That way it is. But no need to remember all that. Now, you see, one more important thing you should know is the radio frequencies propagation band. This is the spectrum of frequencies. Frequencies, actually, the lowest possible frequency is VLF band. That is very low frequency, VLF band. Then next, little bit higher is LF band, that is a low frequency band. Then medium frequency, MF band. Then HF band, that is high frequency, very high, VHF band, our communication is done in this band. Communication is usually done in this band, VHF band. Okay. Ultra high frequency, that is UHF band. Super high frequency, HHF band. Extremely high frequency, EHF band. This is the last. See, as we are going on, the units are increasing. Kilohertz, then megahertz, then gigahertz. All right. No need for you to remember the approximate bands for microwave frequency or airborne radio frequency utilization. Nothing. Okay. What two things you must remember exactly is one is AF band, that is audio frequency band, which a human ear can listen to. Apart from audio frequency band, whatever frequency we produce after 20 kilohertz is supposed to be a radio frequency, RF, which our human ear cannot hear. So then what we do with those high frequencies which we cannot hear? Actually, all these high frequencies which we produce after 20 kilohertz are actually used for different navigational aids. Like see here in this page number 27, you'll see HF communication is between 2 to 25 megahertz. Then markers, ILS markers, I will do ILS with you tomorrow. That is 75 megahertz. ILS localizer, so and so. VOR, so and so frequency. You will see all the navigational facilities, or other than communication, mostly are using very high frequencies. I mean, ultra high frequencies and super high frequencies, because we cannot listen to them. So it is human nature that let us make use out of things which we cannot really use ourselves directly. Let us make still some use out of it. So audio frequency is useful. Okay, we use for communication, but radio frequency cannot communicate. Then what we'll do? We'll use it for navigation, because audio speech cannot travel, but radio can travel. So we will use this radio for traveling purposes, like to far off places. We can use these radio waves or radio frequencies in this bands to travel at longer distance and all that. I will tell you the application of this when I'm doing this audio frequency and radio frequency, rather in a different chapter altogether, or a different issue, that is modulation. When I'm talking about modulation, I'll tell you different. For the present, what you must remember is there are two bands. The frequency bands are two, audio frequency and Radio frequency, audio which we can hear, radio which we cannot hear. Which we cannot hear, what we can hear, we use normally for communication, day-to-day communication, and what we cannot hear, we use for navigation purposes. Different systems of navigation like VUR or say ILS or DME and radio altimeter, radar. Okay, all in all this navigational and equipments we can use, or surveillance equipments we can use all these frequencies, because they travel at a very great distance and they are very powerful. They are free from any type of interference and any type of we can say Tertian effects. All right. So that we'll discuss when we are doing your modulation. Okay. Presently, another thing what you must know is air-ground communication. Air-ground communications come like this. I told you before. I remember when I was doing part 1. Terminal area communication and en route communication. Terminal area communication. Terminal area communication. Now you will be able to answer me. Terminal area communication is definitely VHF communication, or pertaining to a particular terminal is terminal area communication. En route communication is definitely HF communication. That is not to a particular terminal, but actually the path or the straight level flight which we are doing on the route, that is between two terminal areas. Okay. Now, what I'm telling you, I'll justify it here. Terminal area communication, that is a frequency spectrum. ATC channels are direct pilot controller operating on VHF, that is very high frequency. DSP, double sideband. I'll tell you what is double sideband later on. In the frequency band 118 to 137 megahertz, in order to extend en route VHF coverage, RCAG, remote control air ground. I told you this before. This VHF coverage is extended by RCAG channels, also operate in the same band. SMC, tower approach, RCAG, PAR, precision approach radar, TAR, terminal approach radar, area control center, ACC, and emergency channels come under this category. All these channels, pilot to controller channels, all operate on VHF, and they are actually known as terminal. What operating on VHF and pilot to controller talks are usually done on these channels. These are terminal communication channels, which are also known as VHF channels. Okay. Apart from terminal, when you leave a terminal, you come to en route communication. En route communication, we say the single sideband radio telephone channels operate on HF in the frequency band of so and so. Okay, no need to add this. SHF communication is unreliable. HF is not very reliable. Why? The difference itself we can notice. VHF and HF. HF then VHF band. First HF band then VHF. HF works on a lower frequency than VHF band. VHF is more stronger, has more transmission power. VHF is having more transmission power, so it is more clear in reception. Apart from HF, HF has got its drawback. That's why we are not using NDBs nowadays. It's working on medium frequency, lesser than HF. Okay, we are using VOR, that is working on VHF. So as the frequency spectrum increases, the reliability of any system also increases. As the frequency spectrum comes low, the reliability also comes low. Okay, is carried out by radio telephone networks. On some selected routes, it is coupled by RCAG VHF channel. So whenever we see so many times, when HF communication becomes very unreliable, we extend the VHF range in such a way that quite a appreciable distance is covered by VHF itself, till the second circle or maybe till the third circle. Quite a lot of distance is covered by VHF itself. To eradicate the error of VHF, we are using HF very nominally for en route communication. Sometimes we replace HF by VHF, but always it is not possible. Wherever this is not possible, of course, we are still communicating on HF. Okay, all right. So now I see all these channels are amplitude modulated. I told you when I discussed the chapter of modulation with you, you will know what is amplitude modulation. I will tell you, and I'll tell you what is frequency modulation also. All right. For now, apart from these things, what you must know, very important thing which you must know is your propagation of radio waves. They in the exam also they are not going. They don't have time to ask all these small things like propagation of radio waves. But just because it is a part of your syllabus in a part of your book, I will just tell you very briefly what you mean by actually propagation of radio waves means the way in which radio waves travel. And of course, the radio waves travel through the medium of air. Okay, medium of air. But whenever we produce radio waves, actually the travel will entirely depend on one thing, and that is the power of transmission. If the transmission power is low, then the radio waves will not try to travel more. They will travel very less. They will travel so because they will be weak. Your transmission power is low, very less on a very low frequency. If you transmitted the radio waves, they will travel to a very less distance, and they will not have much strength to go at a longer distance. And maybe because of the gravity of the earth and because of the surface attenuation, we call it surface attenuation or attraction by the we can say surface attenuation or attraction due to the gravity of the earth, these weak waves will not leave the surface of the earth and rise. They will stick to the surface of the earth, travel along the surface of the earth. Such weak waves traveling along the surface of the earth due to the gravity effect or due to their own weak power of transmission, such waves are known as ground waves. Such radio waves are known as ground radio waves, ground radio waves. But if you suppose now increase the power, if when you initially transmitted radio waves at a low power, the only ground waves they produce. But to the same thing, you increase the transmission power. Suppose you increase the transmission power to a new frequency altogether, more powerful frequency altogether. What you will see, ground waves of course will be produced, but at the same time, some waves will travel more distance than the sky waves, and they will have the tendency to beat the gravity of the earth and try to rise in the sky. Try to rise in the sky. Up to some extent, they will rise or leave the surface of the earth and travel up because of the strength they have, because they are more powerful than the initial waves which you created. These waves which are leaving the surface of the earth and trying to have a tendency to go up in the sky towards the sky are known as sky waves. So basically what it depended upon, it depended upon your transmission power. Low transmission power will produce only ground waves, slightly higher transmission power will produce both ground and sky wave. Now if I try to increase the transmission power more further, ground waves will not be produced because no ground wave will be there. Why? Because the transmission power is so high that no gravity will attract these waves. Now they will all go towards either to the sky, and if they are more powerful than that, they will try to go towards this space. They, and you can say you will have space waves also, but space waves are not very useful for us. That's why we don't increase the power of transmission to that extent. We try to extend, we can rather manipulate between the transmission power between ground waves and sky waves. Mostly we produce sky waves. Apart from ground wave, we produce sky wave. Why? Because all the stations to whom you are sending your message by radio transmission are actually not at the same distance. Some stations must be very close to you, some stations are very far. If the station is very close to you, even a ground wave production, maybe the ground wave will go to the next station and your work is done. That means your low power transmission for a close by distance is okay. But for a longer distance where you have to transmit, ground wave transmission will not do, because ground waves will not reach till there, because they will finish their strength and they will stay put there. They will not travel further. So your transmission will not go till there. You want to send your transmission to a higher, more greater distance, then you have to increase the power of transmission. You increase the power of transmission, the sky waves will go up in the sky. Go up in the sky, but they will not remain in the sky. What they will do? They will come back to the surface of the earth. They will reflect back to the surface of the earth. From where? From the ionosphere layer. Now, can anybody unmute yourself and tell me what you mean by this ionosphere layer? Have you ever heard? I mean, you must have definitely heard this in 10 plus 2. I'm very sure, because I studied in 10 plus 2 some 30 years back. So why not you? Okay, education is more advanced now. When I could study this in 10 plus 2, why not you? So can anybody tell me, unmute yourself and tell me fast, what do you mean by ionosphere or ionization? Can anybody tell me? कनेक्ट तो हुआ ही क्या नहीं हुआ यार. Yes, can anybody tell me? Please tell me. Somebody please speak out. Nobody. What is ionization or what is ionosphere? Stop video. Yes, somebody tell me. Somebody tell me, please. What is ionization and ionosphere layer?
So
Can somebody tell
it's
me?
like making a neutral body with charged.
Okay.
Charge.
Okay. Why does it take place? Whatever it is, why does it take place? Ionosphere. Why does it really exist? And what is ionization? Why ionization process takes place? Why? Actually, ionization is due to the presence of the sun, right? Due to the in absence of sun, there is no ionization. Only when the sun is there, presence of sun, we have the ionization. So actually, when the sun rises, what will happen? And when the sun sets, between sunrise and sunset, we have ionization. Ionization is maximum in the daytime. That is 12 noon. Okay, when the sunrise starts slowly, the ionization process will go on increasing, and the peak will come around 12 noon. Maximum ionization will be there, and after that, it will keep on declining till the sunset. And once the moment the sunset comes, the ionization will become less. So you can say in daytime ionization is present. In nighttime there is no ionization. What due to the daytime in the surface, Earth's surface, above the Earth's surface, there are free ions or free electrons around the atmosphere, around the Earth. Okay, now their density increases increasing height. The sphere of electrons is called the ionosphere. It is divided into 3 layers, like this layer indicated. Okay, we don't bother about the layer just now. What you must remember is that we, as the sun rises, this layer will come down. As the sun rises, this layer will keep on coming down. Wherever the free electrons are present, this layer will start coming down. So now this is very important because our radio waves will be reflected from the reflecting layer. The reflecting layer is very much the ionization layer. The layer will keep on coming down. So in the daytime, you will get very less range from because the sky waves will not be able to go much up because the layer itself is coming down. So in daytime, when the sky wave goes up, it will be reflected back, no doubt, but at a lesser distance, very close to the Earth. But at the night time or in the after sunset, this layer will keep on rising because there is no sun, so there is no ionization, and the layer will keep on rising. When at the night time, if you are producing a sky wave, there is no need. Suppose I'm producing. I'll give you a very good example. Suppose I'm producing a sky wave of 500 kilowatts in the daytime. 500 kilometers in the daytime, and I'm saying it is going 100 miles. I'm saying it is going 100 miles. It is coming down at 100 miles. The range is 100 miles. 500 kilowatts during daytime. Sky wave is giving 100 miles. What I find in the night time, if I produce only 250, half of 500, 250, again it will give me 100 only. That means at night time, half of the frequency I'll get the same range. It's night time. Why? Because it got reflected at the same distance, but for a lesser power. Because I didn't require that much of power to send the wave to that great altitude. Because it could because of the absence of ionization layer, it could go up to more greater height and come down and reflect back. All right. That's why I told you, don't mug up the primary and secondary frequencies on HF. HF is the most affected by this ionization. HF is the most affected by ionization because as the layer goes up and down, this change is very rapid during the daytime and during night time. As the sun rises, the layer from up will start coming down very rapidly. Okay, and vice versa. And when the sun sets, the layer will start going from down to up very fast. So usually HF communication is very disturbed because the layer is rising up and not suitable for HF or not suitable for MF and sunset also. So sunset and sunrise, the signals strength in HF is either very low or very strong. So this erratic fluctuation in the HF and MF is there during sunset and sunrise. That's why, but not in VHF. Why not in VHF? Because in VHF communication, it has got the strength. So it can even if the layers come down, it can go up to a greater height. All right. Now I hope you have no confusion about these three waves: ground wave, sky wave, and space waves. We are not talking about space waves because we are not using that for communication purposes. But sky waves and ground waves we are using. Ground waves for a shorter distance. Sky waves we are using in such a way. We know we are using it very intelligently. We know that in daytime, at what time we are going to transmit, we'll know. In the daytime, we have to send some signal to 200 miles. At what time? At 12 o'clock in the noon. Then we know the layer will be very down. So that signal may not go at 200. The transmission has to be 500. We increase the power of transmission and send the signal to cover that distance. But at night time, we know now the ionization layer has gone up. So no need of having the reflecting layer down. The wave will travel through this medium and go to a very high extent and come back. So no need to send the transmission at 500. 250 is enough. So low power transmission to send the same distance will be done by us using the same skywave at night. So daytime and nighttime, what difference is made actually for transmission is not only the transmission power, but also the reflecting layer. Okay, so as per that, the transmission power of is increased or decreased. Anyway, what you must know for examination point of view, that propagation of radio waves is done by basically two parts. Don't go to the third part, that is space waves. It's not immaterial now because we are not using space waves. Ground wave and sky wave. Ground waves have a drawback of only going to a shorter distance. Sky wave has an advantage of going to a longer distance. So long way communication or navigation can be done by sky waves, not by ground waves. So whenever we have a focus of sending our waves to a greater distance at an aerodrome which is very far, we use both ground wave and sky waves. It's mostly sky wave, but ground waves also are produced. We cannot stop the production of ground waves. But if you are going on increasing the power, then definitely 100% there will be no ground wave at all present. You didn't stop ground waves. By increasing the power, the ground waves were not ground waves anymore because they got more power. So the surface attenuation or gravity of the earth does not attract them any longer. Now they will try to bend and go towards the sky. All right. So it's very surprising that you could not tell me what is ionization properly as per that, and what is the ionospheric, why the ionosphere layer is existing up and down. That is because of the sunlight. Okay. Now, I will tell you one more, very important thing, which 101% I can guarantee you. That's my personal guarantee. If you go in the exam, definitely they'll ask you this question. You just tick mark on page number 28, page number 28 of a Viva book. This is very, very important. They will 101% ask you, what is skip distance and skip zone on HF? What is skip zone, skip distance and skip zone on HF? Very simple. The distance between the transmitter and the point on which the surface of the ground wave, okay, where the first sky wave return is called the skip distance. Now see, when I said, when you are making the transmission, two types of waves are produced depending upon the power of transmission. So ground waves may be produced and sky waves. Suppose ground waves are also produced in your transmission. So definitely there must be one point where your last ground wave up to what it has traveled. After that, the ground wave will not travel because it has lost the strength. Now it is too weak to travel. So whatever distance the ground wave has covered, last ground wave has covered and reached that distance, and the first sky wave from your transmission, it must have reflected and come back. It must have reflected and come back. So whatever distance the first sky wave came back and between the last ground wave. Now you will agree to me, last ground wave, first consider the last ground wave. Now there is no ground wave, last ground wave. Now there is no ground wave. That is the last one. That point where the last ground wave came, that point, and where the first sky wave came after reflection. Before that, there was no sky wave, and now after this, there is no ground wave. So between the point where there is the last ground wave and there is the first sky wave, there is no sky wave also and no ground wave, because you said last ground wave, now there is no ground wave. Then you said first sky wave, before that, there is no sky wave. So in this point, that distance in which there is no ground wave, transmission is over. And actually, the first sky wave has come here. Before that, the first sky could not come. This distance between the last ground wave and the first sky wave after reflection, when it comes back on the ground, that distance is known as skip distance. It is skipped. This is skipped. Skipped by what? Skipped by both the ground wave and the sky wave. So you can say there is no signal in this area at all. There is no ground wave also and no sky wave, because sky wave has not yet come. It came on a further point somewhere. Between that point where it came and between where the last ground wave produced, there is no ground and no sky. Absence of both. This is known as zero signal zone or dead zone, or this is also known as skip distance. Skip distance you can call, or you can call it the dead zone, or you can call it a zero signal zone, where you will not get anything, no signal at all. Okay. Okay. Okay, now we will go to the skip zone. Skip zone. This is the surface where this is the reach and the sky waves have not started returning. The area between the limit of the surface wave and the point of reaction of the first sky is termed as a dead zone. So, skip zone, skip distance. Don't mix up these two things. The skip distance is that distance which is between your transmitter. See, you see the distance between the transmitter and the point on the surface of the earth. So, the skip distance is not so important in the exam, but skip zone is very important because skip zone is zero signal zone or dead zone because there is no ground wave also and no sky wave also. Skip distance is just the distance between the transmitter, whatever you are transmitting, and the last ground wave. Last ground wave went up to say 100 kilometers. So your skip distance is 100 kilometers. Where did the last ground wave go? After that, there is no sky. Suppose 50 kilometers. It went till 50 kilometers. So escape distance is 50 kilometers. Why? Because the ground wave went only up to 50 last. Okay, last. After that, it skips the distances. But skip zone, wherever the last ground wave went and the first sky wave came, there is no signal at all between this. There is no ground wave and no skip. And so this is known as a zero signal zone or dead zone. So in this exam, RT exam, they may ask you skip distance and skip. Most probably they may ask you skip zone. Okay, skip zone because it's a very dangerous thing to happen in RT. You may not have any type of signals in that. All right. Okay. Now, apart from this, what we important thing what we must do now is we go on page number 30. We go on page number 30. When we go on page number 30, we come to a very important thing, that is simplex and duplex operation. Okay, simplex and duplex operation. What do you mean by simplex and duplex? The simplex, a method in which telecommunication with two stations takes place in one direction at a time. Communication takes place only in one direction at a time. Either you can transmit or you can receive. You cannot do both things simultaneously. Such a system is known as simplex telecommunication. Simplex telecommunication means the communication in which the transmission or reception is done one at a time, not both simultaneously, not both simultaneously. That is known as simplex. Okay. Now, anybody can give me an example of a simplex telecommunication system? Somebody give me an example of a simplex telecommunication system. Anybody can give me? Can anybody tell me? Anybody can tell me, give me an example. You know, but you are not remembering. All of you know. And when I tell you the answer, I mean, I don't know. You must have seen. You must have seen somewhere or noticed somewhere. What is single channel simplex? Single channel simplex.
RT communication.
RT, yes, VHF communication. Because why? See what happens, when suppose I want to give a call to the ATC, what I on my control stick in the cockpit, you must have seen, if you are working in some aircraft cockpit, you must have seen there is a PTT switch. PTT switch. PTT means press to talk. PTT, press to talk. Press to talk. Press to talk. When I press the switch, I can talk, rather I can transmit, and the ground will listen to me. But when I want to listen, if I keep the PTT pressed, I will not be able to listen. I have to release the PTT to listen. Okay. So the communication is one way at a time. I press to talk on my control stick. I just press and I call the station. Okay. When he answers me, before he answers me, I release when I finish my conversation, I will release the PTT. This type of communication is a simplex communication in one direction. We were not using this. I mean, I was not transmitting and receiving at the same time. I was transmitting first, then he received, and then he transmitted and I received, one at a time. VHF communication is a simplex communication. Okay. Now, another thing, of course, I will analyze this also, but come to a different headings. Duplex, a method in which telecommunication between two stations can take place in both directions simultaneously. Can anybody tell me example of duplex? Duplex? Duplex communication. Duplex communication. Anyone? Example you can give me.
So in our daily uses, we can say our mobile phones.
Oh, correct. Yes. Anything else? Because in mobile you can talk and listen at the same time. Correct? Yeah. All right. Done. Anything else? What about landline? Landline for telephone? Landline telephone is simplex or duplex? Tell me fast.
Duplex.
Yeah. Okay. But if you remember long back, if you see the old movies and all that, Hindi films, old movies, long back, ages back, this was telephone also was simplex. Okay. Because you could see one gadget was that mic in which we were speaking in the telephone was held in the hand, used to speak. And one thing we used to hold again and keep it, in our ear. That was the earpiece, and we had one mouthpiece, two different things. We could talk in this and then listen. We had to put one thing on the ear. That was a very old thing. And slowly, that was when telephone was really, on those times when telephone was really invented, and a few years after that. But after that, things are advanced, and now, of course, it's a duplex. Okay, fine. Now, when we are talking about aviation, or when we are talking about the RT, see, single channel simplex using the same frequency channel in each direction. That means whenever you are using a single channel simplex, then that means you are using the same frequency channel in one direction. Okay, same frequency channel in each direction means you are using the same frequency for transmission and same frequency for reception. That is a VHF communication. Again, if you are talking to the tower on 118.1, he also reply on 118.1. He's not using a different frequency for reply. Now, same VHF communication, controller to pilot is all done on VHF. It is called single channel, but simplex. Single channel. Double channel simplex, using two frequency channels in one direction. That means one frequency is reserved for communication, for transmission. Another frequency band is reserved for reception. That is known as double channel simplex. Okay. And sometimes this method was also known as crossband. Anyway, all these things you not need to trouble yourself of knowing all these things. In the exam, sometimes they may ask you, just think, simplex or duplex. What do you mean by simplex communication and what is duplex? Simplex communication is between two stations, take place one direction at a time, and duplex simultaneously in both the directions. That's all what they require from you. All right. Then what is a microphone? That also they will not go in detail. Device to convert sound waves into audio frequency currents. AF currents, audio frequency. I told you AF stands for audio frequency. Microphone, when we speak in a microphone, it converts sound. What we are speaking is sound. That is converted into audio frequency currents. Okay, it converts into audio frequency convert. That is function of the microphone. Okay. And they said for general purpose, carbon microphones are commonly used. Other microphones used are condenser microphone. These are the types of microphones which you not need to know. There is no need for all these technical details of microphones, but you must know the function, and that too they never ask you. That's I can tell you. All right. And the antenna types. How many types of antennas are there? Loop antenna, sense antenna, horizontal antenna. This you must have studied when you are doing the AME course also. Loop antenna, sense antenna, horizontal antenna. But this also, there is no need for you to know. Of course, what you must know is loop antenna is used for direction finding. Actually, loop antenna is mostly used in NDVs. When we are using NDVs, NDV and ADF. Actually, so many, I was really very surprised in my career. I went to many colleges and flying clubs, and I asked them what is NDV. They told me what is NDV. Of course, all the AMEs told me what is NDV. Then I asked him one simple question. A person who was in the 5th semester that time, we had the old pattern that time, 5th semester, now not 147, but the old semester, where there were 5th semester, 5 semester. I asked a person who is just on the verge of passing the 5 semester and asked what is NDV and what does ADF do. So that gentleman could tell me what is NDV, but he could not tell me what the ADF. He said, sir, there is no connection between ADF and NDV. He told me that there is no connection between NDV and ADF. But how can NDB work without an ADF? I mean, ADF is automatic direction finder that is in the aircraft. That is a system to home into NDB station. That is ADF, automatic direction finder. But our books do not tell us this. A lot of books having that lacuna. NDB, they treat it as separately and ADF as separately. So we don't know the liaison between NDB and ADF. NDB, of course, non-directional beacon. That's a navigational aid on the ground, or the radio transmitter or a navigational aid on the ground. To receive the transmission of NDB, we require an ADF in the receiver, ADF receiver in the aircraft. If you don't have an ADF receiver, how come you will receive the NDB? That he will not. Actually, we are not discussing that now. So at that way, though, there are so many things you may not be able to tell. Anyway, sense antenna, a vertical used in direction finding to remove 180 degrees by 80. Again, wherever we have an NDB, or wherever we have an NDB or a ADF, we should always have a loop antenna and a sense antenna. You have a loop antenna and sense antenna installed in an ADF system in the aircraft. In the aircraft, you'll always find a sense antenna and a loop antenna that is used for homing purpose in the NDB. But slowly this is becoming absolute now. NDB is becoming absolute. Okay. Then we have antenna type self-radiating mast, vertically used for medium frequency propagated by ground waves. So many aircrafts are having this self-radiating mast vertical antennas also, but these are slowly becoming very rare. No need actually to study any antenna type for your exam, at least that much I can guarantee you. They don't ask. This is all outdated. What WPC has still given it on their syllabus just to increase the length of the syllabus, but they are not going to ask you all that. Mostly they are focused on what is currently used. Okay, well, they will focus more on things which are upgraded or used. Without they upgrading the syllabus, of course, they will always focus on the upgraded things without you mentioning it in the syllabus also. Anyway, no issue on that. Now, I will go to one small topic before we wind up for tomorrow. Today, actually, tomorrow I am planning to conduct the last class, hopefully the last class, in which we will conclude with your discussions on VOR. I'll tell you what is VOR in detail. I'll tell you what is ILS system in detail. And of course, I'll tell you what is DME in detail, because DME, ILS and VOR, definitely in your Viva, they will ask you a lot of questions on that. That is full of that. Viva will be full of that. Now, kindly rejoin.